Today's daf is daf Samach Vov. Just quickly recap what we did so far. We were talking about when you sell a house, what comes with it. And then one of the things we talked about was, let's say, a mortar. There's a mortar that was part of the house, and you etched out of you put some rock inside the house, you attached it, and then while it's attached to the ground, you then turned it into a mortar. So that and the other one, and that we say is considered part of the house. And the other one was that you first created the mortar and then you embedded it in the ground. And that's we say, look, it started out as being something portable and mobile. It's not part of the house, even though now you connected it. And then we moved on from there, and and we brought a brayso regarding a mikveh. We know that mayim she'uvin, drawn water that's inside a pot, let's say a bucket, that water becomes mayim she'uvin. It can render a mikveh puzzle. We'll talk more about. We spoke about it yesterday. We'll talk more about it today, and it makes the mikveh possible. And the same thing is that the brayso says, the Sefta says, that it depends about this pipe. If you dug under the ground, and inside while it was in the ground, you dug out a pipe that you made out of, or whatever it is, you made a pipe there. So then we say it's part of the ground, it's not mayim she'uvin, it's not a keli. But if first you made the pipe and then you embed it in the ground, once it has the status of a keli, in other words, if chakaku was safe kavaya, first you dug out and you made the pipe, and then you put it into the ground, it never loses its status as being a pipe, a keli, and the water traveling through is mayim she'uvin, provided that the water stops a little bit or you have a little keli there. Otherwise, just a pipe from both ends. Not really clear. It flows all the time. Nothing gets retained. So either it's an elbow there, or let's say you made a little crevice there and you put some stones there. So it's a keli for the stones. It becomes a keli. So then the mayor made a comment that brayso that makes that distinction does not follow Rabbi Eliezer, nor does it follow the Rabban. And we're trying to work out which Rabbi Eliezer and Rabban are you saying it doesn't follow. And we explained that regarding the machlek of the house, it's totally unrelated. There, it's a question of how generous a seller is, or how narrow-minded a seller is, or how stingy a seller is. Nothing to do with the status of a keli. Okay, so then we spoke about a beehive, but we concluded the beehive is talking about the honey in relation vis-a-vis the beehive, not the beehive that was attached to the ground. So now we're up to the next case here, in the middle of the page, maybe perhaps it's Rabbi Eliezer of the story of this plank of wood, this board. Right now we think it's a plank of wood. The Tanan, we learned a daf shel nachtumin, a board that has been smoothed out, used by bakers. Some of the Shainim explain it used by bakers to knead the dough. They need a big area, a large area to make the challah or the bread. Others say, no, this was outside in front of the store where you show off what you have, and so you can sell them. Either way, we know when it comes to Kabbalah's tumah, it has to be a keli, something metaltalin, something karka fixed. It's not mekabel tumah. We also know that a pshute clay eitz, a flat piece of wood, generally is not mekabel tumah. Only midrabanan, and even then, only if it's midras, only if it's able to be walked on. So then it's mekabel tumah, only midrabanan. And then you have, if it's a metal sheet, then it's mekabel tumah. Particularly matchas is different. So, what are we talking about? Wood? We're talking about metal. The Gemara will think that tafshin aptumin. We're talking about a piece of wood that you put there as a shelf to present the different kinds of bread that you have, or to sell your bread. So daf shel nachtumin, instead like this, because you fix it into the wall. Remember, karkas not mekabel tumah. Is Rabbi Eliezer metayed in all circumstances? Rabbi Eliezer does not make a distinction whether you made the board first, you smooth it out, and then you attach it to the house, or you put a piece of wood and attach to the house, and then you smooth it up. Makes no difference. It's always considered part of the house as tayr. So in other words, even the chatchil started out as a keli, but once you attached it to the house, it becomes part of the house. So obviously, this Rabbi Eliezer cannot agree with the thing we learned by mikveh, where there's a difference when you carved out the mortar, when you carved out first the keli and then you attached it, or whether it was attached first. Okay. However, the chachamim say that it's tummy. Again, they say it's considered independent from the wall of the house, independent from the board, from the house, and therefore that board is mekabel tumah. Again, even if you first attach the board to the house and then you smooth it out, since it started out detached from the house, it's not part of the house. Again, Chacham don't make a difference between which, when it happens. So that's what we mean. Rabbi Eliezer Chachamim don't agree with that brayso that makes that distinction. So Mani. So who will be the author to Sefer? Even if you first dug out the pipe and then you put it in the ground, it's considered part of the ground. and it shouldn't be Mayim Shuvin. It makes no difference. And either Rabbanon, then I feel Kavod of Chokve. If the Rabbanon, even if you put in the ground and you made the pipe, and after you made the pipe, first you made the pipe out of the ground, Chacham hold it's not considered part of the ground. It's Makabel Tumah by the Daf Shon Nachtumah thing over here. No difference. Says Gemara, no. I'll tell you, it's Rabbi Lezer, the shiny pshute clay eights. Pshute clay eights is different. A flat piece of wood is different. The tumah the rabbanon. Don't compare this to mikveh. By mikveh, we're talking about a question of the rice. So therefore, we say that even though now it's embedded in the ground, that pipe, if the chatchil it started out as a pipe, so it was a keli already, it doesn't lose that status because we're talking about a question of mahateda, and therefore we say that it's considered separate from the ground and it's mayim shuvim. That's Rabbi Lezer as well. Here we're talking about the whole board. It's made out of eights, made out of wood. So it's a flat piece of wood, which is not makabel tumah generally. Only if the tumah is midris, if it's possible. Since it's only midrabanan, you know what? As long as now it's embedded to the house, I don't care when when you smooth out the board. We'll treat it like part of the house, not makabel tumah. The whole is rabban anyway. Okay, so therefore the Braisa could be Rabbi Lezer. The Tosefta before could be Rabbi Lezer. Says the Gemara. So what are you trying to tell me? Why is mikveh different than the case of the board? Miklal the shiva deraisa that you hold that my shiva is mahatayda, and the basis for that is big machlek in the whether my shiva is mahatayda yesterday already. But so the Rashbam and others learn that Mayim Shuv Matrei they learn from a pasuk where we say that since we compare it to Mayin, just like a Mayin is totally 100% kosher source, so too Mayim mikveh, the main mikveh that you wait in has to be 100% a kosher source. So if it's Mayim Shuvin, Mahatayda is possible. So Mahatayda, we're going to say once something has the status of a keli, it doesn't lose that status just because you attach it to the ground. So pipe. You tell me Shiva that I say, we know that Shiva is only Mayim Shuvin is only the Rabbanon. Why is it only the Rabbanon? So here, this is where the machlekes is. So many Rishonim learn Mayim Shuvin is Rabbanon, and that pasuk you brought there that is actually is only a smachta. It's only the Rabbanon relied on the pasuk. The whole din of Mayim Shuvin is the Rabbanon. As by Keli, by Mayim, we say that all these other din. But when it comes to a person having to go, we don't need Mayim Chayim by a person being Torah except by herself. So anyone else, Mayim Shuvin is 100% kosher, not Torah. The Rabbanon that asid. Then the problem is if Mayim Shuvin is only possible Rabbanon, why 3 million apostles of mikveh? What are we worried about? So they get into all that finicky stuff with the machlekes there. The Rashbam and those that learn that Mayim Shuvin is what's matayda, but most clearly what Kaimon the Rabbanon. Kaimon the Rabbanon means, he said the way the Gemara learns here, it says if you attach a pipe to a mikveh, that means you already have an existing mikveh, maybe more than 21 saw. Because we learn other places that if you have more than 21 saw, then the didn't change. Then only saw some of the Rabbanon. Or you already have a mikveh, and if you already have a mikveh, 21 saw, and now you added a pipe, now Shuvin is only Rabbanon. So a kaimel rabbanon is not the general principle that mayim shuvin is rabbanon. That's mahatayda. Even the time mikveh is mayim shuvin. But if the majority of the water in the mikveh is proper water, make shumim, and then you add this pipe, now it's only the rabbanon. So now that's what so the chayda. So that's my question. Since mayim shuvin rabbanon goes back. So why by daf shel not chumah, which is the rabbanon, Rabbi Lezer holds is always considered part of the house, and therefore it's not makabel tumah that board. And why by Mayim Shuvin, which is the rabbanon as well, Rabbi Lezer suddenly you're saying it's Rabbi Lezer, so it makes a difference. Oh, but if there was a pipe first, it already had a status of a keli. It doesn't lose it just because you bet it in the ground. What's the difference? That's question number one. Well, furthermore, in fact, the case of daf shel not chumah is not with the rabbanon. Punkt verkehrt. The case over there is mahatayda because Rabbi Yochanan is very unhappy about learning the daf shalays because daf shalays is not makabel tumah even with the rabbanon, only if the tumah is midras. If you start walking on whatever. Here, it's therefore he said we're talking about a daf shal matzah, which is mahatayda. So in fact, it's exactly the converse of what he said before. You said that the case of the bakery is midrabanan and the case of the mikveh is mahatayda. It's actually the other way around. The case of the mikveh is midrabanan. And the case of the bakery's matzah, and yet over there, by which the Rabbanon he's he says it only works if you dug out the pipe when it's in the ground. But if you had a pipe and then you put it in, it doesn't lose the status. And yet by the bakery, which is the same, which is mahatayda, he said, you know what? Even though you made this board smooth and had a din, of a sugar matzah, whatever it is, but now that you attach it to the house, it loses that status. It should be punkt verkehrt. Was he right? Leilu Rabboni. It's the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon will hold that it never is considered part of the house. And the Rabbanon by Daf Shonachum say it's never part of the house. The shiny, and you know why? Because since it's Mahatayda, and once it's a keli, I don't, once you attach it to the house, I don't care if afterwards you turn it into a keli or before, but since it's not part of the house, naturally part of the house, then the Rabbanon say that it's always considered what do you call it? It's always usher, right? It's always makabel tumah because that's ma'atayda. We're machmer. But she'iva, which is only the rabbanon, the same rabbanon will say, you know what? If you formed the pipe out of the ground itself, we'll treat it as karka and it's not usher. So now the same logic, but the opposite. It's not Rabbi Lezer's chachamim. The shiny shiva the rabbanon. Shiva rabbanon is different. If you tell me Shiva the Rabban is different, that it's not really considered part of the that what the Shiva Rabban is different, and therefore it's considered like part of the ground. Once it's in the ground. So mine have come in when you carved it out. The whole thing's the Rabban anyway. Who cares if you made the pipe outside and then you put it around? But once you put it in the ground, it should become part of the ground. The whole thing's the Rabban anyway. Now it's sitting in the ground. It should be like karka. It shouldn't be considered a keli. You should not be ma'im shuvin. Even though it's the Rabbanan, but once it had officially, formally, the status of a keli, it was a pipe. And then you put it in the ground, even though it's only the Rabbanan, it's a pipe. It doesn't lose its identity. And that's why Chacham Moshe that if you made the pipe outside, then you put it in the ground, it's considered a pipe. And therefore, it's considered Ma'im Shul. Okay. Boy, Rabbi Yosef. So that's the machlekes of the Rishonim, all based on the Gemara question called Kaimelon the Rabbanon. Boy, Rabbi Yosef asked the following question: make shamim. We know we learned kiyitin. We had Bab Metzia and the second page kiyitin, dumik kiyutan. Now that we learned by that, in order for let's say something to makabel tumah, food to makabel tumah, or something to makabel tumah, it has to become wet, and you have to be happy that it became wet. You don't necessarily have to. So it says kiyutan. So it doesn't mean that you have to physically go ahead and make it wet, even if it's rainwater. But if you're happy that rainwater falls on it and washes it out, kiyutan, do kiyutan. So kiyutan, you know what you're doing, you're conscious, you want it. So the kiyutan has to be in the case of berotz. You want it to happen. So that's number one. Number two, you want that this water should rinse something which is metalclin, something which is portable. If you wanted to wash the walls of your house, which is not metalclin, which is part of the house, then that water is not going to be machshir something else to mekabel tumah, because the water is only there. You're happy for water to land on something which is not mekabel tumah. So therefore, to be machshir zroim, for example, you need water that you're happy to land on the zroim. But if the water you're happy to wash the windows in your house, for example, and then that water slides off and goes in your zroim, it's not machshir the zroim lekabel tumah. Even though it's berotzen that water to land on the house, but it's not berotzen on something which is metalclin. So Rabbi Yosef asked the following question. Make shamim shechishav alein ladiach tzrublin. You wanted it to land on the tzrublin. The tzrublin is that the bottom of the mortar, that round big piece. And that round piece also you brought it in from the outside. It's also something you attach to the ground. So something you attach to the ground. Once you attach it, generally you just leave it there. You don't take it away again. That's why in the Mishnah, tzrublin is considered part of the. When you make a sale, it's considered part of the house. Ma'u lezroi. What happens? You're happy for the water to come and wash the stone because all these leaves and parts of wheat fell there, and you're happy for the rain to wash it, and then it landed from there to Zeroim. Do we say that okay, it's Baratzen, but how do we treat this? It's Trublin. Do we say that these it's Trublin is karka, so therefore it's not machshir the Zeroim, or do we say that since really it's a separate piece from the house or the ground, and you just put it there, you added it, it's like you're happy for the water to land on something which is not karka, and therefore that water can be now machshir the Zeroim. That's the question. So the Gemara, Eliba the Rabbi Lezer says, Rabbi Lezer, whatever is attached to the ground is considered part of the ground. No, but he holds it definitely mechuber. So he says that even by machteshes. He said that even by machteshes, the mortar, once you attach it to the ground, I don't care when you made a keli, attach it to the ground, it becomes part of the house. So surely in its trouble, which is much more even though it's embedded in the ground, which is much more part of the house, because once you put it there, you leave it, it's so heavy, and you leave it there. So surely he would hold that it's always mechubel lekaka. So that water that you wanted to wash the motor is not like water that you wanted to land on something which is metallic. You want to land on something which is karka. He holds kol mechubel lekaka karka. Even though we had an opinion before that has nothing to do with the laws of tum and tara, it has more to do with if a vendor is very generous or not. But because he uses the words kol hamechubel harega karka, sounds more like he's giving a general rule in everything. Kol hamechubel karka, not just specific in the case of Moichel and Lekeach, but rather it's a din. Any mechubel karka now, I don't care where it started, what the origins are, is pekarka. It's like to bailach, there's no question. That water is not machshas roy, because it's water for karka. Elokita bailach. My question is the liba that Rabbana, according to Rabbana. And which Rabbanan are we talking about here? We're talking about the Rabbanan who argue before regarding Machteshes. They argue regarding Machteshes. They say Machteshes, if it's, if you carved out the Machteshes first and then you put it, it's metallic. But if you carved it out of the stone that you embedded in the ground, you put a stone there and then you carved it out of that, that's considered Kak. So according to that Chacham, the original Chachamim before, the first price we had, do we say that the word is that anything tolush and then the end you mechaber it is considered part of the house? It's part of the house. Sorry, the Chacham who said before that anything which is tolush and then you add it to the house is considered tolush. That's why they say it's not part of the sale. So it's true bill as well. Even though since it was not part of the house, you just added it on later. You had this brown stone and you put it there later. Surely it should be considered tolush as well. And because it's considered tolush, then the water that lands on that should be able to be machshas roy. And why is that? So Gemara says this. That why? Because it's true. Definitely, you had it all carved out and you prepared it before you attached it to the ground. So if you hold a machteshes is considered not part of the house, then surely in its trubel is considered. Sorry, machteshes is considered talush, and you say that it's not part of the house, and it's trubel surely is considered as far as it is a talush, and if it's a talush, then the water for landing off should be machshas right. Or the din that they say there is not a general din; it's only din by when you're selling a house, and maybe they hear the major that is part of the ground, and therefore, even though you had a rutzen for the water to land on this stone, it's not considered as if you had a rutzen for something which is detached. It's something for attached, and therefore it's considered like it's mechuber and it's not machshas right. The Gemara remains the question. Take. Shalach le Rab Nechemia Breya de Rabbi Yisrael. Rabbi Yisrael had a son called, he had a number of sons. One of them was Rab Nechemia, and he sent to Rabba the son of Huna. Rabbi Huna always went with Rabba Zuta. L'nedoi to nedoi. The asya hach itzel kamach. The din is that the boys yashin and the girls don't yashin. Chacham made a special takana that 10% of the estate should go to the girls so that they can get married. And once they're married, they have no more responsibility. But 10% should get married. So he says when you go, and they can only collect from karka. They don't collect from metalton, just metalton of all these things, including sub and all that. They cannot collect. The Rashbam and some Rishonim hold that even though by ksuba, the Goinim came along and made a takana that you could collect ksuba from metalton, and a Bachai could collect from metalton. But they said the Rashbam and other Rishonim, but not when it comes to Isun Nechasim, not when it comes to this din of Bas. And other Rishonim disagree, say why should it be different if Goinim made takana, it's across the board. But the point in those days it was only from kaka. So he says, what's considered kaka? So when this woman comes before you, agba isin nechase afilu mistrubuli de l'chayim. When it comes to that takana chachamim that they get 10%, give them even from this tribula. We will treat it as if it's part of the house, as far as that is concerned, and they can collect their 10% from there. Omar Rabashi says. When we were by Rav Kahana, we said they can collect even from the rent of the houses. Not only is even rent, the money. You can argue metalton, and Taste wants to know what's going on here. If they paid already the money, it's metalton. So what if it was generated from the rent of a house? But the fact is now it's money. So much we're talking that didn't collect. So the Tosfos says the chiddush in the Gemara here is that they have a contract for a year. 6 months already went by, and the end of the year they're going to collect the money. So since it didn't happen yet, it's karka. So she has a 10% from that. The chiddush is that she also gets the first 6 months as well, even though the first 6 months, already happened. It's gone. It's only assets they have now, and it's money that's owed. So it's metalklin. This is money that's going to happen. So no, if the karka is hers, as if they're renting it from her. But that rent which they already had from the last 6 months is money. And money's metalton. Why should she get a share in that? Or why should she get her 10% for that? The reason is because since by schidus, ein schidus shalemes el b'soif, you don't pay schidus only to the very end, it's as if it wasn't converted to money yet. It's still just a house, and therefore she's entitled to it. And that's the chidus of Amalei the. Okay, well let's.